Welcome to Canada's Entrepreneur, where we talk to the entrepreneurs who are making it happen across Canada and deliver the news, trends, knowledge, and opinions from entrepreneurs and business influencers across the country. Hi, everyone. I'm Phil Bliss, founder and CEO of Canada's Entrepreneur, coming to you today from Toronto. Today, higher education is facing a financial crisis that's threatening job losses, program cuts, and projected deficits that could shrink the sector considerably and leave many institutions teetering on closure. And this is coming at a time when we also have tariff-based layoffs and technological advances that are making, reskilling and upskilling more important than ever. According to the World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report in 2025, employers anticipate that 39% of workers' core skills will need to be changed by 2030. Toronto-based KnowMeQ founder and CEO Matt Foran will discuss not only his own entrepreneurial journey, but how AI can address some of these issues just when higher education is threatened and when Canada needs to retain and upskill its workforce. Matt holds a Master of Education from the University of Toronto's Ontario Institute of Studies in Education and Adult Education, and he's a published researcher and in 2010 founded the world's fully online adult literacy program for deaf and hard of hearing adults. There's a lot he can speak to, including what prompted him to start this business and the many challenges he's taken on to see it through. Matt, welcome to Canada's Entrepreneur. Great to see you. Our little chat beforehand was kind of fun, seeing as we both know higher ed pretty well. But before you get too deep into the conversation with me, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself, what you do, and why you're here, basically.
Well, first of all, just a great pleasure to be with you today, Phil. And thank you to your audience for also taking time for our chat. So my name is Matt Foran. I'm the CEO of KnowMeQ. We're an ed tech and workforce development technology company. We're based out of Ontario. I would say because a lot of our people are spread throughout Southern Ontario. And by means of getting here, I was in terms of working with my company's KnowMeQ. I was working in education for many years. I was working in community literacy. I was working in employment services in Ontario. I've co-founded a e-learning company about 10 years ago as well. But I worked for almost 2 decades as an administrator at a community college in Toronto. In particular, working in spaces of adult literacy, working with lots of persons who have marginalized experiences who are looking to get into the college or into better opportunities for jobs, skilled trades, so on. And so trying to create opportunities through programming, curriculum programming and experiences, short-term, long-term programming to get individuals into better spots. And so so that's what brought me into this space, and I'll give the audience a little bit of a tip right now. KnowMeQ is I like to joke that it's not a fancy Japanese word. It's KNOW, capital KNOW, capital M, capital E, or it's not capital E. Nobody know me Q. So, and it's based on the Delphic maxim of know thyself. So, and another way of saying it about the name KnowMeQ is really it's the work that we do is through our solutions is grounded in the person knowing who they are, which is really important for them. So, there's IQ and EQ, and our company, in fact, has the provisional patent for AQ, adaptability quotient. But the best Q to have is about knowing them oneself. So that was a long answer, but I think gives you a little bit of
It always is a
trivia.
long answer, and that's really good. So, you've worked sort of in kind of institutional side of things for quite a long time, but you're now got this entrepreneurial journey. What are the top three things that you've learned in this, fairly recent entrepreneurial journey?
Well, I would say that I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit, and in fact, that was probably one of the things um, that I was given a lot of latitude at the college I was at, and even in the community literacy organization, to be able. People saw something in me to be able to sort of put some of my ideas in motion. I've got I guess my brother and I started off having paper routes when we were quite young, and then I was the guy littering the neighborhood with my little Kermit the Frog printout saying, "I'll cut your grass, I'll mow your lawn, I'll trim your hedges, whatever, for money." And so I kind of got away from doing that by following the more standard path of getting a job. But there was always something that I needed to do. I always had sort of an idea or 50 ideas or 65 ideas or whatever going to try to do something. And based of those things, I'm a curious person. So whether I was working in the college or elsewhere, I always had an idea for doing something and seeing sort of friction points and how those things can be alleviated by just reframing things. Um, and so I guess I took that, through my experiences in particular at the college. I was able to really have some make an impact by creating some novel programming and so on, and to get into it, and I wouldn't say that I didn't fit in the college. I did fit in the college, but I really saw some opportunities to be able to see some of the really systemic challenges, the opportunities to address those things. And I guess to your question about what I've learned as an entrepreneur is that um, you need to be focused. Number one, you have to. There's only so much time in the day, and when you enlist the help of others, you need to be focused. You can't boil the ocean. You do need to be able to more have a singular focus, get those things in ideas off the ground, get some feedback because you may have an idea for something, and it may be the greatest idea ever, but if it doesn't get feedback from others, whether you'll never know really if it's the right thing or not. And so getting your good user feedback, um, and then to be able to iterate. I think what I learned uh, by means of an expensive lesson was going out, trying to build something, enlisting lots of great people as an initial pass on things, and not getting it built, spending a ton of money and time, and not having it built when I should have done something a low, much more low fidelity, get it into the hands of people first,
Yeah.
and then get feedback. So those are expensive lessons. And I guess the other thing is, in terms of a third lesson to learn, um, is being capital efficient. Try to be really, really capital efficient. This is, for me and for our companies, this is bootstrapped. We haven't raised dollars. It's been bootstrapped money, and we've been successful. But dollars are real. Dollars are oxygen.
Yeah. So, we both have worked in the higher education space at various times. I'm not there particularly at the moment, but I do know that, and I think the world knows that certainly within the Canadian perspective, but I think pretty globally as well, higher education is going through a ton of change at the moment. Tell us a bit about your perspectives on that. I mean, what does it mean for us all? What is that kind of thing? Because most of our listeners, our viewers, you know, that have been through higher education or going through higher education, got kids going into it. Tell us a bit more about it, and maybe a wee bit more about your solution that
Sure.
might be interesting. Just without pitching it, just kind of it's an interesting thing.
For sure. You're absolutely right. Um, it's a very different. I should say it's a very interesting time. And I was almost about to say it was a very difficult time, but I think it's a very interesting time because I think that The conventional models for post-secondary higher education are being challenged, and I think that there's a number of reasons for it. Of course, as you and I discussed, there's a significant demographic challenge that's been long predicted, and as we spoke about the boom bust echo, it's that book was written 3 decades ago, but certainly it was not a surprise for anyone who read that book 3 decades ago, as we did, um, that we're experiencing this right now. So those for readers or listeners who haven't read that book, basically we're in the echo right now, and so this is where there are fewer people going to post secondary, and so we as a company have adapted some solutions to address that. Um, and I'll just say that this is a time also when there are also different tensions. We've welcomed AI into our hearts and minds as a society, not so not so long ago, and it's displacing a lot of jobs, and they're not the typical jobs that people are seeing. And I think that I hope that there's going to be a shift in terms of government processing for our priorities, but it's a lot of white collar jobs are being left behind. It's not the millwright in the company who's losing his job to AI necessarily. It is the person who's processing, the paralegals or people who are in administrative roles, who are having their roles being, replaced by a smart algorithm,
Hmm.
and that's a tension um, that's affecting things. And of course, there are questions, in particular in the United States. There's a greater amount of scrutiny for higher ed, and we work in the United States, so it's I can say this with a bit of experience, um, where there's a lot of critiquing on the dollars, the return on the investment for individuals going to roles, going sorry, pardon me, to higher ed, and you know hundreds of thousands of dollars for an undergraduate degree is difficult for a lot of people to pay for. Um, and so there's been, of course, now some other tensions which I don't need to go into with respect to the federal government in the United States challenging higher ed. So
Mhm.
these are creating a lot of different tensions, some of which um, are really, I think, fundamentally questioning individuals' ambitions for post-secondary or higher ed and their role. When I was doing graduate school, it was often the discussion, the tension point of higher education was, what's the role of higher education? Is it for getting jobs, or is it for enlightenment? And of course, the historical account, going way, way, way back, was it was for enlightenment, and that you would have technical institutions, vocational institutions would be taking up the roles of the career preparation. But the universities here in the United States, and probably in Europe to some extent as well, um, sort of universities and colleges, community colleges, started blending who was doing job preparation, and there was fewer and fewer focuses on humanities. So now I think that when individuals are questioning the ROI of a higher degree, they're looking at, am I going to get a great job? So very clearly, the institutions, the marketing positions have been about getting jobs. I'm fast forwarding to get to the answer, to land the plane, as my wife reminds me. But so the tensions that we have seen, of course, is that throughout these different things, different pieces that are pulling on the strings of higher ed right now, the very common piece is that higher education needs learners. This is also at a time when there's a significant change in the workforce as well, where workforce, we've been experiencing a period of max employment for many years, and it's sort of changing here. But in the United States, the unemployment rate's quite low, um, but that's shifting. But people are getting pushed out of roles, And then back to the demographic issue, where there's about 60% of our population in Canada and the United States, which are not traditional post-secondary age. That's people who are 25 to 65 years of age, the working age people. And many people need to go back to upskill to keep relevant. I would say everybody will at some point in their career. And so our suggestion and a suggested solution is based on breaking down the role of higher education to be something that of a conduit for the economy. And so we've looked at very intently over the last number of years and built out a great solution for an AI credit for prior learning tool that identifies the individual's skills that they've experienced, that they have from work and education over the years, and help to articulate those skills to course and program learning outcomes to abbreviate and accelerate the opportunities for everybody to go back to work. And so the process in Canada is typically called Prior Learning Assessment and Recognition, PLAR. In the United States, is more widely known as credit for prior learning. It's a bit of a nightmare to do manually, but with some AI, this is a perfect solution for AI, helping to do a many-to-many matching and it helps to get people in the door institutions, for employers who are looking to foster greater lifelong learning opportunities as well, because that's one of the ways that they can retain workers is by giving more professional development opportunities so that people can get unglued from roles. This is a win-win for them, so they can help them to gain new skills and then pivot to new roles. That's an important opportunity. And it really starts to break down that hegemony of the institutions to get people into, to get more people into lifelong learning. So I think that off the top, the question was, what is the role of higher education? And I think that the successful higher education institutions are going to be those who put aside conventional processes for intakes and schedules and help to meet people where they are and to get them in the door and to do stackable credentials so that they can build up skills over time and keep and promote this whole notion of lifelong learning to everybody and not just a select number of people. And to the credit of private career colleges in Canada, they are doing this quite well. And I think that the public institutions really need to follow suit, because the bottom line is our country and the United States everywhere needs workers to be working for a variety of reasons, purpose being number one. But we need to have paved roads, hospitals, and education, and we need everybody, as many people in the system. And I think that our institutions need to be conduits of that. Otherwise, they're going to be left at the side.
Let's sort of look at a couple of things here. The challenges you faced. We all hit unexpected challenges. How do you handle them? How have you been able to keep it going?
It's a great question. I think that I was late joining into this technology world. I've been, I guess relatively late with this company. We've been going since 2022, and we were very fortunate to have been successful early. But the idea was expensive, and so trying to get into the place of raising dollars through venture has been increasingly difficult. We have remained bootstrapped at this point. I think the venture spaces, those days of raising money early as a technology company, are I think are just not there right now. I think we need to be in a better position to raise later on when we have.
I don't just think technology companies. I think 90% of companies, people don't want to risk the capital until they can see a result. You know,
And I don't. I mean, I think that just it makes sense from a pure financial perspective. I understand that it very very well. Um, I think that some of the challenges that we've also had is that in some ways I feel like we've been the um, sort of whistling in the wind. That this is the challenge that what we're seeing about worker challenges here. This has been long documented in academia. So among the things that we've been talking about is the productivity challenge. Um, the productivity challenge, I think, in my experience, has been mislabeled here. Why we're Canada's lagging behind, and why, and I think there's many reasons, but among them is that 1 out of 2 workers in our country lacks the functional literacy or skills to meet the core demands of their jobs. And that is a really that's a big number. And that's been since 1994. But it's been consistent. It's through the OECD that they've been tracking this. And so in some ways, I think that we've been sort of pushing on this notion of workforce upskilling, that this is an important thing, because when you do make an impact for those towards those measures, it does have a significant impact on the individual and on their company and their economy. And so, but it's not a sexy message. This isn't, a flying car message or some sort of large language model that's really, really capturing the attention. Um, this is a workforce. It's ugly. Workforce upskilling is not particularly sexy, but it's critical to our success as a nation. And we've also had some challenges, quite frankly, getting the support of some of the innovation areas here in this country. And I think that that's something you know, that really needs to change. I think that when we're facing the the opportunity challenges right now, um, innovators in this space need to be rewarded for risk taking. And I think that there's a lot of challenges where companies, in particular of our size and even larger, having red tape that we have to unglue ourselves from, and not having the the government programs uh, really be springboards, but they're labyrinths to jump through, um, that you're spending tens of hours every month trying to put together grant proposals for small sums of money for innovation. That just can't happen. Innovation means taking risk, and it can't just be my family taking risks financially. There needs to be that, because there are those that are going to pay off, and when we start to do that, it is a absolute benefit. Um, so that is something that we continue to see. I'm hopeful that there's a when Canada is looking at how to reduce some of the friction points, east west, north south, and for standing up on our own, that some of those innovation agendas really do have
good,
80 or
good.
90% of the strings attached cut.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, that's enough of the serious stuff. Let's get to have some fun.
I like fun.
If you weren't doing what you're doing now, what do you think you'd be doing instead?
Um, I've been fortunate to have had music in my life for many, many years, since I've been, in early years of high school, and still continue to do it with my bandmates and my even at the house. I would probably do music. My over the pandemic, I my brother and I started doing sets for work from home to be able to keep people together. So I'd
Mm.
probably do DJing and making our own electronic music, and that would be something I'd be doing. I mean, I also have some sort of weird idea of like wanting to set up like a little, store that sells healthy food products as a marketplace, sandwiches and soups, maybe a little butcher shop, something where I'm, involved with people. I love being around people. Yeah.
What book are you currently reading? That's that. Yeah, well, Yeah, reading, and what book would you recommend to our audience? Our audience being kind of businessy audience, basically, innovation audience as well. But
I love to read them. I just Make Money Easy is a book that I'm reading right now, and it's I think in as much as it's kind of a practical sort of book, it's also sort of something of a philosophy that I really started to embrace more and more and more. Because I think that embracing big ideas and embracing that we all have a purpose and in a light to shine and to be essentially to be vessels to be able to attract the right people around us and the right ideas and to by focusing on things with the right intentions, um, you can start to manifest those things and be magnets towards it. And so that's a great book. I think it's kind of yeah, kind of awesome. There's you know, I I'm not sure why I've gone into those, but I think there's it's a simple book, very easy to read.
are you a morning or a night person?
Morning. So, yeah, it's been a shift, but I find that I need to. I want to make the most of my time. I want to be alert. I want to get up. I generally, it's probably the last 7 or 8 months of getting up and doing a little bit of exercise, meditations every day, um, prioritizing the days ahead. What are my absolute three essential things that I need to get done? Um, Try to start with doing the hard things first if I can, try to get those bigger things done. And if I can get things done before people start responding to emails, that's an ideal thing. And then I can really set the day with some clearer focus. And um, yeah, I read The Organized Mind many years ago, which basically sort of talks about having the ability to be present with people means that you're clearing your deck to be able to give the right time and you're not carrying through things. But that takes discipline, and then often for me, it takes getting up earlier to be able to not have a really harried brain.
Yeah. If you had to pick one word to describe yourself, what would it be, and why would you choose it?
Um, I would say curious.
Good. That's good.
Oh, and
What's
why? I guess, and why I would say it's because I like to ask questions and to dig deeper and understanding why things are happening and you know I guess uh what the purpose is and how it could be done differently.
final question? What's keeping you up at night these days?
Um, I setting the right intentions for the days ahead and really focusing on what I can control
Yeah.
and being able to detox my head and my heart. I think that comes with a lot of work. That takes a lot of work. But it's a regular practice that I'm trying to be in. Starting with gratitude,
Mhm.
starting with focusing on the abundance that is around us, and to be able to manifest this positive spirit because there's no shortage of chaos, but it's all distractions. And uh, what I can control is who I am as a dad and as a husband and as a business leader and as a client, as a vendor, and as a person who I want to go out into the world to be someone that through what I bring to the conversation is hope and opportunity and some clarity, and to say that there's agency that we all have the ability to embrace, and it's not all doom and gloom. We live in a pretty spectacular place where there's some brilliant people all around us. There's some wonderful just conditions for amazingness. But if we're all focused on the doom and gloom, we're missing the greater opportunity to really create the world that we are entitled to and to deserve, and to make even better for those around us.
Yes, for me, it's like, what's keeping people up at night? Misinformation.
Oh,
So, don't listen to it. Don't look at it.
don't listen to it. Yeah.
Real
Yeah,
simple.
it's
Real
not
simple.
serving you.
Don't keep
It's
it on.
simple.
Just
Yeah,
read something that you can get value from. So anyway,
absolutely.
it's just a little
Oh, uh,
thing.
very wise words. Very, very wise words, Phil. It's
Okay, so
agreed.
hopefully someone will listen to those. Yours was pretty good too. Listen to the end of this. Thank you for coming on, Matt. It's been great seeing you, and
Likewise.
really good session. Thank you.
Thanks, and continued grace and growth for everybody listening here. This is an amazing opportunity for for Canada, and for all of us to make a difference positively. This is a tremendous time of change, but we're ready for it. Thanks for making time for me, Phil.
Thank you. Gosh, Matt knows a heck of a lot about higher education, and I love his new AI-driven technology to advance career pathways for higher education. I'm Phil Bliss. Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter on our website and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for listening to Canada's Entrepreneur, where you meet the entrepreneurs that drive Canada's economy. See you soon.